When we talk about breathing, we often treat it as something ordinary, almost invisible, like the background hum of life. It is there when we wake, there when we sleep, there in moments of joy and fear, and yet rarely do we pause to consider that this quiet rhythm is one of the most powerful forces shaping our health as we age. After 60, the body begins to speak more clearly. It tells us, sometimes gently and sometimes urgently, that the way we breathe matters more than we once thought. Not just for oxygen, not just for the lungs, but for muscle, balance, energy, memory, and even the sense of who we are in our own bodies. Breathing is movement. Every breath involves muscles contracting and relaxing in precise coordination. The diaphragm lowers, the ribs expand, the chest subtly changes shape, and deep within, millions of tiny air sacs respond like living tissue, learning and adapting. With age, this movement often becomes smaller. Not because the lungs suddenly forget how to work, but because we ask less of them. Years of shallow breathing, prolonged sitting, stress, and reduced physical challenge gradually train the body to do the minimum required for survival, rather than the amount needed for vitality. Science shows us that lung tissue itself does not dramatically weaken with age in healthy individuals. What changes more significantly are the muscles that drive breathing and the flexibility of the chest wall. The diaphragm, which is one of the most important muscles in the human body, can lose strength and coordination, just like the muscles of the legs or arms. The intercostal muscles between the ribs can stiffen. The posture we carry, shoulders rounded, spine compressed, further limits how much air can move in and out. Over time, less air movement means less oxygen reaching tissues, and that subtle reduction ripples outward into fatigue, reduced muscle recovery, slower walking speed, and diminished resilience. What is remarkable, and often overlooked, is that breathing muscles respond to training even later in life. Just like skeletal muscle, they adapt to load, rhythm, and intention. When we engage in deliberate breathing exercises, we are not merely calming the mind or filling the lungs. We are rebuilding muscle function, retraining neural pathways, and restoring communication between the brain and the body. This is not metaphorical, it is measurable physiology. Oxygen is not simply fuel, it is information. Every cell reads oxygen levels as a signal about the environment. Adequate oxygen supports mitochondrial function, and mitochondria are the engines that allow muscles to contract, repair, and grow. After 60, mitochondrial efficiency naturally declines, but it does not disappear. Breathing exercises that increase lung ventilation and improve oxygen delivery can support these cellular engines, allowing muscles to respond better to strength training, daily movement, and even simple activities like standing from a chair. When we breathe deeply and slowly, we activate the diaphragm more fully. This muscle, shaped like a dome beneath the lungs, is also connected to the core of the body. It works in coordination with abdominal muscles, pelvic floor muscles, and spinal stabilizers. Each slow, controlled breath becomes a gentle exercise for this entire system. Over time, this improves core stability, posture, and balance. A stronger diaphragm reduces the work of breathing during physical activity, leaving more energy available for limb muscles. In practical terms, this means walking feels easier, climbings feel less taxing, and recovery happens more efficiently. Breathing also shapes how the nervous system behaves. With age, the balance between the sympathetic nervous system, which prepares us for action, and the parasympathetic system, which supports rest and repair, often shifts toward chronic low-level stress. Even in the absence of obvious anxiety, the body can remain subtly tense. Shallow, rapid breathing reinforces this state. Slow, intentional breathing sends a different message. It tells the nervous system that it is safe to allocate resources toward healing, digestion, and muscle repair. Hormones adjust, inflammation signals soften, and tissues become more receptive to regeneration. There is a quiet elegance in how the body responds to this. When breathing improves, circulation improves. Blood vessels dilate more effectively, allowing nutrients to reach muscles and organs. Carbon dioxide levels normalize, which paradoxically enhances oxygen delivery to tissues through well-established physiological mechanisms. Muscles that once felt heavy or weak begin to feel responsive again, not because they have magically grown overnight, but because the environment they live in has become more supportive. Breathing exercises also influence how we move. Many older adults unconsciously hold their breath during effort, whether lifting an object or rising from a chair. This breath holding increases internal pressure and can strain the cardiovascular system. Training the breath teaches coordination, exhaling during exertion, inhaling during preparation. This simple shift reduces strain, improves efficiency, and allows muscles to work in harmony rather than conflict. The idea that breathing can rebuild muscle may sound surprising at first, but when viewed through the lens of physiology, it becomes logical. Muscle growth and maintenance depend on three pillars: mechanical load, adequate nutrition, and proper recovery. Breathing influences all three. It enhances the ability to tolerate load by improving endurance. It supports digestion and nutrient absorption through nervous system regulation. It accelerates recovery by improving oxygen delivery and waste removal. Breathing does not replace strength training, but it amplifies its effects, especially in older bodies that require more precise support. There is also an emotional dimension to breathing that science increasingly acknowledges. Breath is the only autonomic function we can consciously control. This makes it a bridge between intention and biology. For someone over 60, reconnecting with this bridge can sense of agency over health. Rather than feeling that the body is declining beyond control, breathing practice offers a daily, tangible way to participate in one's own resilience. As lung capacity improves, even modestly, people often report clearer thinking. This is not surprising. The brain consumes a significant portion of the body's oxygen. Improved ventilation supports cognitive function, memory, and emotional regulation. A calmer mind makes movement more confident. Confidence reduces fear of falling or injury. Reduced fear encourages more movement. Movement further strengthens muscles. The cycle becomes upward rather than downward. One of the most compassionate aspects of breathing exercises is their accessibility. They do not require equipment, special clothing, or ideal conditions. They can be practiced seated, lying down, or standing. This makes them especially valuable for individuals with joint pain, limited mobility, or chronic conditions. Even on days when the body feels resistant, breathing remains available. Scientific studies have shown improvements in lung function metrics, walking distance, and muscle endurance in older adults who engage in structured breathing training. But beyond numbers, there is a qualitative shift that is harder to measure. People begin to inhabit their bodies differently. They stand taller, move with more ease, and experience less internal friction. The breath becomes a companion rather than an afterthought. There is also a deeper reflection here about aging itself. Aging is often framed as loss, but biology tells a more nuanced story. Aging is change, and change responds to input. The body remains plastic, responsive, and capable of adaptation far longer than once believed. Breathing exercises are a gentle reminder of this truth. They do not fight aging, they work with it, honoring the body's capacity to respond to care. When breathing becomes fuller, muscles receive clearer signals. Motor neurons fire with better timing. Coordination improves. Even fine motor control, such as balance adjustments, benefits. This is why breathing practices are often associated with improved posture and gait. The body reorganizes itself around a more efficient central rhythm. There is something profoundly human about returning to the breath later in life. In childhood, breathing is natural and expansive. Over decades, stress, responsibility, and habit narrow it. To consciously reopen that space is not just a physical act but a philosophical one. It is an acknowledgement that growth does not end with youth. That learning does not belong only to the young, and that care is a lifelong practice. From a scientific standpoint, the integration of breathing with movement may be one of the most underutilized strategies in healthy aging. When combined with light resistance training or walking, conscious breathing enhances muscle activation patterns. Muscles work more efficiently, reducing unnecessary tension and allowing strength to develop with less strain. This is particularly important after 60, when injury risk increases and recovery takes longer. The lungs themselves also benefit structurally. Deeper breathing encourages better distribution of air throughout the lung tissue, reducing areas of under-ventilation. This supports immune defense in the lungs and maintains elasticity. While lung tissue does change with age, its functional capacity is far more influenced by use than by time alone. Breathing also supports the heart. Improved oxygenation reduces cardiac workload during activity. A heart that works more efficiently supports better blood flow to muscles. This interconnectedness reminds us that the body is not a collection of separate parts, but a living system responding to patterns. Perhaps the most overlooked benefit of breathing exercises is their effect on perception. As breathing slows and deepens, sensations become clearer. People become more aware of subtle muscle engagement, early fatigue signals, and posture changes. This awareness allows for adjustment before strain occurs. In this way, breathing acts as a form of internal education, teaching the body how to move more wisely. In later life, wisdom is often associated with the mind, but the body also holds wisdom. Breathing practices invite us to listen. They create a dialogue between intention and tissue, between consciousness and cell. This dialogue rebuilds trust in the body, which is essential for continued movement and engagement with life. Breathing is not a cure, and it is not a shortcut. It is a foundation. A quiet, reliable foundation that supports strength, endurance, and recovery. When practiced consistently, it becomes part of the body's language. Muscles respond. Energy stabilizes. The sense of effort changes. What once felt exhausting begins to feel manageable. There is a certain humility in recognizing that something as simple as breathing can have such profound effects. Yet this simplicity is not trivial. It reflects the elegance of human biology. The systems that sustain us are not separate from our awareness, they are influenced by it. After 60. The question is not how to return to the body of youth, but how to inhabit the body of now with clarity, strength, and care. Breathing exercises offer a way to do this without aggression or denial. They respect the body's history while supporting its future. As the breath deepens, there is often a subtle emotional release. Tension that has been carried unconsciously begins to dissolve. This emotional lightness further supports physical movement. Muscles that are not burdened by chronic tension can contract and relax more effectively. The science of muscle tone and emotional state is increasingly clear. They are inseparable. In this way, breathing exercises rebuild muscle, not only through oxygen and mechanics but through context. They create an internal environment where growth is possible. They remind the body that it is supported, that effort will be met with recovery, and that movement is safe. This understanding transforms breathing from a passive act into an active practice. Not something added on at the end of the day, but something woven into daily life. Each breath becomes a small investment in resilience. And perhaps this is the most important insight of all. Health after 60 is not built through extremes. It is built through consistency, attention, and respect for the body's rhythms. Breathing exercises embody this philosophy perfectly. They are quiet, patient, and deeply effective. When we breathe with intention, we participate in our own biology. We become collaborators rather than observers. Muscles respond, lungs open, and the body remembers how to adapt. In that remembering, there is strength. In that strength, there is freedom.